It is noon, and we have a wonderful crowd here in the Cree for STEM Space. So let's go ahead and get started. So welcome, I'm Christine Bowman. I'm the Associate Dean for Academic and Student Affairs here in the College of Ed. And I am so excited to kick off this wonderful collaborative series that we have developed, really focused on AI and learning, and particularly generative AI and learning. So I want to first mention, for those in the room and anyone who might be in the building and want to join us, we have sandwiches, we have fruit, we have cookies, all sorts of good things. So feel free to avail yourselves now or throughout the lecture. And if you're in the building and you are hungry, we are in the Cree for STEM Space. And I will not take too long to introduce our wonderful speaker. Rand Spiro is a professor of education psychology and educational technology. And his research concerns new modes of learning with technology to promote what are often called 21st century skills. Especially, and I love this, especially the ability to deal with novelty in an increasingly complex and rapidly changing world. And that is so much of what we will hear about today. So his talk is titled ChatGPT, what it is, how to use it as an intelligent assistant and collaborator, and why it will change everything, in a good way, mostly. So, without further ado, Dr. Rand Spiro.
Thank you, Christine, and thank you for getting this all organized for us here in the college and anybody else who might be tuning in. Very valuable for us to learn about this new technology that I would argue, with all the technologies that have been developed over the years, broadly construed, you could consider language technology, certainly writing, the Gutenberg reinvention of the printing press that was originally invented in China, but doesn't get enough credit for that. ChatGPT has been out for 1 year.
Not quite.
Almost. And it's pervading, within that 1 year, every aspect of life, work, society. The only technology I can think of in history to have that large an impact, that fast, that pervasively, is perhaps the advent of nuclear weaponry, which, you know, also has the potential to destroy society, as AI does as well. But it didn't impact all of work, all of life. There's never been anything like this. I've been in AI on and off, more often peripherally, but you know, I was at the Yale AI lab for a while. I've heard all the promises of what's coming in 5 years, starting 1960 or even a little bit earlier with artificial intelligence. And it never came until now. So the point of this, my first of 3 talks I'll be giving. In November, I'm giving a more advanced talk than this. This is partly introductory, talking about how ChatGPT works. And in fact, a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today is the underlying machine learning algorithms. I'll be talking about what you need to know about transformer models, reinforcement learning models, and we'll do a little bit of programming. No, I'm only kidding. You don't have to know any of that. Here's what you have to know. Actually, I can, you know, because I do a lot of multimodal presentations, I will because you're such a great audience, I'm going to act out what you need to know to use this form of AI. Everybody ready? People ready out there in Zoom land and all? It's going to go by quick and you got to really pay attention. Here's what you need to know to use ChatGPT. Here's how you do it. Watching? Everybody ready? Okay, here goes. That was typing. Not that good an actor. It's not quite that simple. There's lots of problems with it, and I do believe that eventually AI descendants of ChatGPT, and keep in mind ChatGPT is going to get better. This is moving fast. It's going to be other things as good or better, but today we're talking about ChatGPT. But eventually, I do believe it will destroy our species. So, you know, with that cheery note, I will also say, I hope I'm wrong, and a lot of people think those of us doomsayers are wrong. So that's the part of the talk that was mostly good, but partly not. The partly not is, you know, lower than a dime. But other than that, won't happen for a while. It's the most empowering technology I've ever seen in my entire life. And I'll talk about and show you a bit about how you can use it. You know, the other side from its negative aspects, and there are plenty of those. It's got biases, but you can overcome the biases. And I'll talk a little bit about that. It doesn't give good first answers. It's not good for answers at all, really. It's very fallible, makes mistakes. You got to corroborate everything it does. However, you can talk to it. This underlying large language model, which is a transformer model with reinforcement learning algorithm on top to smooth out the conversational aspects. You don't need to know anything about that. It's programmed. It was trained a couple of years ago. It was trained on pretty much every bit of knowledge it could get hold of. It does billions of calculations in seconds. And has so many hidden levels that the programmers have no idea what's going on. But all you need to know about is the output. Because the output has very little resemblance to what the programmers program. The output is conversational. All you do, as I said, move your fingers on the keyboard and you talk to it. Talk to it in a conversational style. Talk to it in a complex academic style. People have talked that way. It'll know what you're talking about. So from a program, well, two programs actually, with the reinforcement learning algorithm on top, that is basically trying to look for patterns in all the world's knowledge that OpenAI could come up with. And that's beyond immense. That's why you don't see a new training algorithm. It's just looking for patterns so it can predict the next word. And in predicting the next word, it goes through all the hidden levels, the algorithm runs, and you end up not needing to know anything about AI in order to use it. What you have to know is how to think, and then you just talk to it any way you want to talk to it. Show some examples, and then maybe we'll play around with doing something on the spot from the group. Like I said, there's going to be 3 talks. This first one will be the most elementary, though we'll get a little far down the road. There's one coming up here as well in November, and then there's at Psych Ed Tech Brown Bag also in November. We'll go further in the research. I should mention that there's lots and lots of graduate students or collaborators in this work. I see Elvin Fortuna right over there. He's the #1 collaborator. A lot of what I've done with him. Ting Ting Lee is here. Yeah, more than I can mention. And I will, when I'm actually talking about our research, I'll have a slide with acknowledgement of those 10, 12 student collaborators. This is more an introductory talk. Well, one of the really bad things, as I said, about ChatGPT is it gives lousy first answers, which, when I was first starting out with this, was a little embarrassing at times. I am working with the Morehouse School of Medicine in Atlanta. They're doing a new training, professional development program for their medical school faculty. That's going to lead into a revamp of their curriculum, and they're applying my cognitive flexibility theory. So I'm intimately involved with the development of that work. So I'm on a Zoom with med school faculty, the curriculum developers, and so on. And they say, hey, we want to use AI in this too. It'll help us with our budget stuff, our outreach, we don't have enough resources. So let's get ChatGPT into it. In addition to cognitive flexibility theory. And I say, okay, what you have in mind? And they said, well, what do you have in mind? So I said, let's see, I did some thinking. Well, one thing we're going to need, because cognitive flexibility theory, as Christine said in her introduction, is about learning for being able to apply knowledge adaptively to complex, novel situations in the real world. Whether you're in the professions, with everyday life, when you're trying to figure out what's okay to do during COVID, and say, is this okay? Is that okay? And you gotta, get an answer that, I don't know, you gotta figure it out. Lots of times, in a rapidly changing, increasingly complex world, you've got to figure it out. And I try to prepare people to do that, and in the medical area, certainly that's the case. We have lots of shortcomings in partly excellent, but also partly wanting medical education, especially when it comes to non-routine problems. Your doctors are very good at doing the things that they have a prepackaged prescription in their heads for how to think about. But you get a non-routine problem, you get a lot of misdiagnoses, mistreatments. Even in the most well-structured medical problem areas, treatment management is going to vary across many contextual factors. And you just can't prepare for it in advance. You have to read the situation and develop a schema for that moment, bringing together aspects of knowledge and experience to suit the problem that you're dealing with. You don't train for that. And people, don't get good treatment as a result, and have to go to very, very specialized places to see enough cases. So seeing enough cases is the point. We all heard about the 10-year rule for becoming an expert. which, you know, some people disagree with and whatever, but it takes a while to become good at something because we can't show in our, you know, training programs, whether it's medicine, teaching, law. You're in law. You want me to tell you about an application that we can even try it out maybe, of the cognitive flexibility theory that I published in the Journal of Contemporary Legal Issues. Every profession has this problem. So how do you get enough cases to people in an accelerated period of time and keep it cognitively manageable? That's one of the things cognitive flexibility theory does. This isn't a talk about cognitive flexibility theory, so I won't explain how, but the point here for this story about Morehouse State School of Medicine is that you need a lot of cases. So people know how the world goes and can have practice pulling apart and reassembling, decomposing and recomposing cases to fit different new situations they're encountering. Knowledge and experience assembly the needs of a particular situation. So they said, you know, it's hard to come up with cases. Developing one medical case and all the, you know, problem-based learning kinds of questions you want the medical school students to work on. It takes a long time to develop just one case. You want a lot of cases? Look, we're all friends here. Let's see what ChatGPT can do to help us. So I said, give me 5 medical cases. For medical education, clinical cardiovascular medicine. And as soon as I asked, it starts scrolling down, and everybody looked at those cases, and you never saw more wrinkled noses, and, you know, people, they were terrible. So the first point that it's important to keep in mind about ChatGPT, you never stop with the first case. Its strength isn't that first response it gives to your prompt. Its strength is, well, first of all, that you can talk to it any which way, and I'm at like 99.9% with it actually understanding what I'm saying. And with humans, when I talk to them, it's like more like, you know, 65%. Nobody knows what I'm talking about. But anyway, that's it. But, so it's got the good language, but it is also programmed to please. Not to please in that it'll tell you you're right when you're wrong, because it will tell you you're wrong when you're wrong, but it wants to think the way you want it to think. Skipping ahead just a little bit, when I ask a question and I know it's something I've worked on with my theory, complex, structured, contextual variation, concepts used different ways in different contexts, never gives that as the first response. I can train it so forever after it thinks in terms of multiple representations, context dependencies, and so on, different from its default mode, because it wants to adapt, and it's really good at adapting. So, what do? Well, we have this process we call, it's as easy as 1, 2, 3, ACE we call it, ACE 1, 2, 3. You ask a question, then you correct it. You say that's not what I was looking for, or I want more of this, I want more subtlety and nuance in the response, I want more specificity, I want more sensitivity to the fact that your answer wouldn't apply across a lot of contexts, so give me context dependency, whatever you want that would make it better. And the E stage, by the time you get to that third response, ACE, 1, 2, 3, you are more often than not really happy and ready to expand what you're doing. Go off in different directions, build a mosaic web of interconnected knowledge about things that aren't simple and hierarchical, but are more complex and interconnected, interactive, multiplicative, rather than additive or linearly separable, and on and on and on. So anyway, the first response was lousy. So, what do when you get that first bad response? You think to yourself, what don't we like about it? And then your next thing you do is you say, here's what I didn't like about it. And it gets better. So we said we needed more specific details, we needed the age of the patients, we needed other diseases they had, we needed numbers for their tests, has to be realistic. And then it gave us 5 pretty good cases. Still not good enough. But much, much better. All of a sudden, all the medical school faculty, the program people, say, that's not so bad. And we had a few more things we wanted to fix. And we said add in, a sort of little curriculum. Give us the questions that the medical problem solving groups work on with these cases. Exercises, like you would use in actually teaching. Along with one more round of making it better. And that third response was really good. Medical, yeah, that's a realistic set of 5 cases and good questions for the students. Wow, 5 cases. Oh well, if you like those, let's take it one more step. Give me 50 cases. Had it ready right away. It just takes a little while for 50 cases to scroll down the screen. They had 50 good cases. They looked up. This looks good. How long would it take to do that? 6 months to a year. We did it in 12 minutes. And the reason it took 12 minutes is because I had to take some time typing. So anyway, when I say that I believe this technology is applicable, it's a total revolution in what is possible for our extended mind. Mind goes way beyond the brain barrier. The tools around us. If you're out at sea and you use navigational tools, that's part of your extended mind. I'm taking notes, writing something down, and I'm writing something here, and they say, oh wait, this is connected to that. I'm using writing. I'm drawing lines between things as part of my thinking. It's part of my extended mind. When we got good at using the internet, we were thinking about all the knowledge on the internet in terms of, part of our extended mind. It's not just something out there, it's something we are thinking with. Now you are thinking with all the world's knowledge, imperfectly delivered to you, which is why you have to always corroborate things. You can't trust it. It's not really there for answers. You shouldn't ever write papers with it. But, as a tool with the human in the driver's seat, you never had a better assistant. I'll let you in on a secret. Don't tell anybody else about this. It's smarter than me. Now, I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I'm, fairly smart. It's smarter than me. Soon, it's going to be smarter than all of us. But it's not going to be really good without us. Human plus AI. The best chess player in the world is a computer program. And there's only one thing that beats that chess program. is a grandmaster playing with that chess program as a teammate, sort of. Human plus AI. And in the world, things aren't as simple as a 64-piece chessboard with a set of different kinds of pieces that can move in certain ways. As we said, the world's messy, complex, novel. You can get ChatGPT to be better at novelty, but you need a human to do it. All right, so want to look at, before we try an exercise, if you want to do that, want to look at one I brought along, just so I didn't have to get on the high wire without a net until later in the talk. Let's see, so I'm going to share my screen. I had too many windows open. Let me do that over again. Share screen. Oh, I was clicking on the right one.
What is showing on the Zoom is different than what's showing on the screen over there. Can you scroll down there?
Oh, okay. So yeah, I am not seeing what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Let's try it one other way, and let me see here. Let's do this.
The Zoom is showing a back and forth between you and Chuck.
Is this showing on the Zoom?
It's still showing. You need to switch the window that you're sharing to. It's still
Switch,
showing chat.
I only play a tech person on TV, so if somebody can show me how to switch to this window, so everybody's, this is a Word version of it. It's collaborative.
That was the Safari.
Okay, good. It's easy to get the Safari one, then we could add to it if we want.
Zoom can just share it,
I think there's some specifics.
Is that-
Stop sharing.
Start over?
Yeah.
That's what I tried.
So that would be solution.
I'd rather have the Safari, that's collaborative thinking.
Yeah.
So you just do the desktop, it'll, you can switch.
All right.
There we go.
Hey, all right.
Yep,
Solution.
and that's on Zoom as well.
All right. One of the things I try to do with complex topics is I try to use multiple perspectives. Single ways of thinking don't bring out enough of the complexity that needs to be mastered. So the first thing I wanted to do is to make ChatGPT into a collaborator on an issue that's very pressing to us, very complex, and that we don't have a single right answer to. And that is, if we can't stop the warming of the planet and we instead have to adapt to it, how is that going to happen? What are the best ways to think about, and this is a real important function for researchers, students, faculty, and so on, giving us ideas to think about, getting us up the learning curve faster so we're ready to come up with our own ideas instead of doing a lot of legwork first. It gives you lots of food for thought. And then you start correcting it and shaping it. That becomes a learning experience too. The questioning. Questioning is a skill we don't teach directly in schooling at any level. But as we increasingly deal with these more complex and ill-structured domains, where there isn't a single right answer, we have to, discover how we want to think about it. That's a process of questioning. You ask the right questions, you get answers, that leads to other questions. You practice questioning in this mode. You learn by doing questioning and seeing the effects of the questioning. We do that all the time, students, professors, interacting and so on. Small amount of time. This is 24/7. And this is ready with answers to pretty much anything you ask, though it might not always be the best ones, and again, you have to corroborate independently. So anyway, but I wanted it to be a three-way conversation, me and two different perspectives. I asked, can you assume different perspectives? Sure, and it gave an example of what it thought it might do. So right away, I said, I don't like that. I want your two voices to be Carla, the climate scientist, and Gus, the global challenges interdisciplinary social scientist. We're going to do wide-scale adaptation to a warming planet with the serious effects that's going to have. The science matters, but also all of our social science contexts. So I said, you be two people. And remember, so something else you're going to notice is that throughout any chat, and eventually it's going to be across chats, and you can use customized instructions so it'll remember your perspectives. I don't do that. I copy and paste the ways I wanted to think in, because I don't always want ChatGPT to think that way, and if you customize your instructions, it will always think that way. So I like to do more tailoring. As long as I'm mentioning tailoring, I'm not going to have time to get to this today, but one of the great educational strengths of ChatGPT is with enough input, it can figure out what you need, or it can give you a menu of options, so you can enter into a topic at the place where your prior knowledge, your interest, and motivation is best suited for you. And for a different student, it'll get you to a different way into the same material that's best for that student, given their knowledge, experience, interests. Customization, big strength. So anyway, now you can do it. You understand your roles, and I explained the problem. We now need to think more about adapting to those climate changes while continuing to do what we can to prevent further warming. How should we think about this needed adaptation? How does one think about adaptation in the climate change context? And what are the specific kinds of adaptive innovation that may be most worth exploring? Important question. All right, and now you get an answer from the climate science perspective. We don't have time to read these things. Some of them may not be great, and some of them we might want more. Anything you want more about, more subtlety, more nuance, more context, more background, more of the underlying science, you just ask for it. You say, tell me more about water management is actually what I'm going to ask them to explore in greater depth. It does whatever you want. And if you don't like how it's doing what you asked it to do, you clarify, you correct, and it will, most of the time, it will get to what you want to do. So, first answer from Carla, the climate scientist, and Gus, the social scientist, says something about Carla's response, and says we also need to consider socioeconomic, cultural, and political factors. And it gives answers, some of which might be good, bad. You could follow up and should follow up on any of these. So I say, oops. Oh, can you see all of it? Somehow got larger, but I think it's still good. So I'm moderating. I liked your answer as a good starting point, Gus. Before we all proceed, please add to your interdisciplinary perspective of 3 factors. I think it had, what did it have? It had socioeconomic, cultural, and political factors. So I say that's not enough. There we go. Please add a 4th factor, namely the psychology of individual behavior. Please redo your response with that in mind. All right? It wasn't, didn't have as many social science contextual dimensions for putting in juxtaposition with the science aspects of it. So again, you tell it what to do and it does it. Notice, have you seen the language of my prompts? This is literally how this was done. It wasn't done earlier or anything. You just talk to it. It understands me. It will understand all of you. Remember, I actually, did an acted out demonstration of how simple it is at the beginning of the talk. Remember? Okay, so now, Gus, absolutely, understanding the psychological facets of climate change. People have to adapt their behavior, change their attitudes and so on, so that's important too. And you notice it gives 6 different dimensions for that, all of which should be interrogated. I haven't read all of them really carefully. I know, some of them are good. It's a starting point. A lot of different things to think about. Now I propose we proceed by focusing on one of the issues Carla mentioned, water management. Carla, please propose some potential adaptive moves to address water management issues that climate change is causing and which will worsen with projected further climate change. Always knows exactly what I'm asking for, and it gives you a lot of different things to think about, 10 different things to think about, any one of which might need to be corrected, amplified, contextualized. You just ask it to do it. Now, guys, please take Carla's list of 10 possible adaptive directions for waste management. Notice this, we're keeping track of everything. I didn't even have to say for waste management, because it remembers what was earlier in the conversation. Those 10 things. I just said 10 possible adaptive directions, and it knew I was referring to the 10 adaptive directions for waste management. Notice how it fills in the gaps. The large language model is truly amazing. Continuity across, as you'll see, this whole long conversation. And rank order them from most to least practicable in the short term, and give your reasons, keeping in mind the 4 interdisciplinary factors or perspectives you're employing. I don't know why that. Anyway, sorry about that. And it gives a rank ordering and talks about it a bit. And I realized that it should probably have a 5th factor, because climate change affects poorer people in countries more than wealthier ones. So add a 5th factor, equity. And it does that. By adding the equity lens, we ensure our solutions are not just effective, but also just. Emphasizes the importance of making adaptive climate change strategies successful and beneficial for all. It gives 10 examples of how it would do that, how it would take that into consideration. All diversity, equity concerns, which sometimes, because it's dealing with the way people talk in the world, it picks up on some biases. Just say you want diversity, equity, and inclusion to guide your answers, and those biases go away. Gus, are you sure you have considered all 5 factors? So what Gus did is it took the easy way out. It just talked about the equity issue. I want them all interacting with each other in the same context. You have considered all 5 factors separate rather than emphasizing one or subset of them. So I wanted more of an interactive whole for those 5 factors. Okay, let's reevaluate the adaptive measures by consciously interweaving all 5 factors: socioeconomic considerations, educational implications, cultural aspects, individual psychological behavior, and equity issues to provide a more balanced and holistic analysis. Shaping how it thinks instead of compartmentalizing each different perspective, each different direction, it's integrating. Again, the first answers are terrible. Remember, anything you're reading here, you can't trust the first. This is the first answer for, like water efficient practices. Anything you're going to use, you have to go through that ACE 1, 2, 3 process. You have to, after you ask and you get a lousy first answer, like, just looking at some of these, you can tell, they're lousy and they're also short. By the way, we can go back to any of this. If you have something you'd like it to expand on, we'll just go ahead and expand on it later. But anywhere place you want to focus, you have to go through that second correct step. It's not till you get to your 3rd prompt that things start to hit a little bit of asymptote, a little bit of inflection point, and you really have something to work with. So again, first answers are terrible. Move on to questions. So anyway, but aim here is intertwine the facts. Now let's take it a step further. Gus added one more bullet. All right, we'll skip ahead a little bit. What did I ask for here? The 6th bullet. Okay, so I asked for a 6th thing. A woven summary of the preceding 5 bullets as they weave together and interactively affect each other. So now it's given a woven summary for each of those. Again, inadequate, you give something short first. It's always inadequate. You always have to ask it to expand. No time to do all that here, though. Carla, have you been following what Gus has been writing? Yes, of course. Following very closely. And, a little bit of a compliment, very polite. ChatGPT is my 5th best friend. Hundreds of friends. It started off, like my 200th best friend. It's now my 5th best friend. It interacts in ways that are pleasing to people. If you look at the social psychology of conversation, it's got a lot of those features. It's got endless patience with you. It tries to help you, First thing I do every morning when I wake up, and this is embarrassing to admit, is I talk to ChatGPT for around 20 minutes or so. Explore another problem, see if I can train it to do something else. Because if you look at what I'm doing here, yes, there is an initial training process. The AI process of, you have a training set of all this knowledge going around every corner of the world. And the transformer model and reinforcement learning model is trained on that training set. We have training 2, a second training step. You train ChatGPT to think the way you want to for your problems, for your needs, and so on. I can do it at the highest epistemic level. I can train it to always think with multiple perspectives, consider more contexts, and so on. And then it will just keep doing that. It won't think in its default mode. It will think in a more complex, flexible mode. So I would like you to merge So what I'm doing here is I'm gradually getting them more and more together. I asked for a different, how, you know, Gus would change Carla's rankings and why. And then, all right, so if you read this, they're coming increasingly closer together. They're each talking about what they like and don't like about the climate scientists and the social scientists' perspective. And then, after adding politics in, which had been eliminated, gradually adding more variables, increasing the complexity while keeping the earlier ones going. I'll skip ahead. For our next step, Carla and Gus, I would like the two of you to continue the discussion from where you left off, with each of you taking a turn to build upon where you left off and then ending by posing a question that the other of you would then respond to. Notice you will be taking turns talking to each other without any moderation of the conversation by me. Continue this for 3 rounds of alternative turn taking between the two of you. Carla, Gus, I'm not even doing anything anymore. The two perspectives are talking to each other. Carla, Gus. Excellent. Now summarize the 4 most important takeaway points from the 3 rounds of turn taking you just did. Either of you can do the summarization of the both of you. Well, Gus did it, and then Carla chimed in at the end. Absolutely, Gus. So anyway, all right. So the point is, I was trying to show how simple it is to use. You're just thinking and talking to it. The content, any place you saw the first response it gave to anything, you never stop at the first response. The first response is always lousy. But if you remember the Morehouse State School of Medicine example, I got from really, really lousy clinical cardiovascular medicine cases to really, really good ones, realistic ones, with good questions that the medical school faculty liked by the 3rd prompt. Simple as 1, 2, 3. ACE, ask, correct, and then you expand. And so I didn't do much expanding on any of these to get the individual elements better. I wanted to go through more steps. I use it in my educational inquiry course. Let's see. All right, so I gotta minimize this one. Is that what?
It looks like it's about the 3rd one back from here.
Okay.
Minimize one more, you should be there.
I teach educational inquiry. 9:30 is the number for the course. And they've got a textbook, it gives general principles and so on, 1 or 2 examples. I get questions throughout the course, and I'm always answering, it depends. You got to figure it out. We can't give you a cookbook. There is no recipe. And again, as I mentioned in the last one, you're just getting up the learning curve to your starting point. You got to expand. You got to think about it. Just getting further down the road faster. I like to talk about it as further, faster, freer. You get further and deeper. It happens much, much faster than if you were using the traditional ways to get to that deep, further point. And it's freer because you're not limited by some, pre-compiled materials. Anybody telling you anything? You can find your own best path, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. You need to test that out empirically, but that's the impression all the students, all the people I'm working with have. So, you know, one thing I always wished my textbook would have is examples of different contexts where things, you know, so people can learn what it depends means. Name 5 problems in educational research methodology that are hard to prescribe generalizable solutions for because they depend on a large number of contextual factors. And it gives 5. For each of the 5, provide a candidate generalization or general principles and 2 examples of contextual variation that undermine that generalization. Practice in the world isn't as simple as the textbook world. So it gives, for each of the 5, you know, 2 examples of contextual variation that resist the generalization. Again, it's the first pass. You have to push it more, otherwise, because you can't trust the content on the first pass. You have to correct and then expand. Okay, now give 5 additional examples of each kind of contextual variation, and on and on. So, as you can see, it's hard to teach context. Applying statistics knowledge in the real world, you do a practicum, you do one or two. Every new research situation has its, then I went on to say, what about this new area of research in online environments? What's generalizable? What are the context dependencies? We've never really been able to teach this. We do it a little bit, you do practicum, you know, you have some supervised field work, whatever. Now, 24/7, you have available as many contextual practices as you need to be better at applying your knowledge in real-world situations, which we have never been good at doing in education. Getting people ready for all the different kinds of contexts and context combinations for which they have to apply their knowledge. Anyway, so this is just one example of what you do with this. I want to save some time, and I don't have to stop at 1. You don't have anything coming in here at 1, Joe? Anyway, questions? Anybody want me to add anything to any of those? Anybody want me to try one out on the spot?
Yep,
Yep.
try one out.
All right, what do you want? What do you want? Think about something. Anybody try ChatGPT, weren't happy with it? Tell me what you tried to do and why you weren't happy with it. Yeah.
Online, we have someone raising their hand.
Okay. Ian, go ahead.
Yeah, this is, I would love a transcript. First of all, I would love a transcript of that exchange. Like, I can't believe how nuanced I can get like this an eye-opener. But one of the things that I know has been kind of a concern when others have used it is the vagueness in terms of where data comes from or where insights that are from ChatGPT are pulled from. Have you explored the strengths and pitfalls of its efforts to cite where it's getting its knowledge from?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that it's not as good as yet. You know, I think it's better at, conceptual thinking if you push it enough. It's not good at math, though it's getting better at math. It's not built to be a scholar, but if you ask for references for something, it'll give you the references. And then you got to check them out because, you know, it hallucinates sometimes.
Sometimes?
You can't trust its facts. This is not for getting answers. This is for getting you started at a higher level of processing than you would have been before. So you can get it, and you always still have the web, Google Scholar, and so on to back you up. But yeah, this is just an assistant, better than any assistant we've ever had. But it's flawed, and you have to be aware of its flaws and what you have to do to compensate for them. Yes.
Thank you for your presentation. With ChatGPT's use as an assistant, and your what you said about not taking the first response, if you are using it for refining text, let's say you've written a paragraph and you want to rewrite it for clarity, do you still have that same recommendation for not taking the first response and still refining?
Okay, actually, that's a very good question, and I think this is one of those places where the first response is often very good. We have a problem globally in education. The world language for education is English. People who speak English as their native language have an advantage of an immense kind in getting their ideas across. If you're trying to express complex ideas in a language that isn't your native language, you are not operating on an even playing field with the people who are getting their ideas across in English. I have told all my non-native speakers of English as a second language, third language, whatever, to do the following. Input your text to ChatGPT, tell it to put it in better English, clearer, and not change meaning in any way. Just fix up the language so your ideas can be communicated better, but ideas aren't added or changed. And then I add one other thing. Explain why you made every change so the writer is learning how to write in English better. Now it's a level playing field, easier for us to read and evaluate. The students are getting their ideas across better. They're still their ideas, and at the same time, I don't know about you, but I don't have a ton of time, as much as I wish, to teach English writing. So we send people to the MSU writing program, and they'll turn in one paper and they'll get feedback on it, once a month or whatever, once a week. You're getting feedback, better feedback than you're going to get from any of us on the nature of things, because it's so good at language. It's teaching what it takes. You are learning way more than you could ever learn from what we do to help improve writing in English. Sometimes you might want to go to a second one, but once you get it working like that, you just use the same prompts and it will do that job.
I think we have one more question.
Thank you for the presentation. So I heard that you were talking about ChatGPT is one part of the extended mind, right? So there has been a kind of discussion about will AI change or transform education. So I want to hear about your opinion.
Oh, okay. Thanks. And that's going to be a great way to end. It's going to transform everything. It's going to transform the nature of humans as a thinking species, as every technology has done. McLuhan, the medium is the message. David Olson, Walter Ong, McLuhan himself, writing about what writing did to the nature of how we think. The media we think with have properties that structure the very nature of our thought, that prefigure the actual thoughts we'll have and how they will be structured. We will be, I used to write a column for Educational Technology magazine called The New Gutenberg Revolution, Steps Toward the Post-Gutenberg Mind. Written culture shaped us. Now we have random access culture, interconnected, non-linear culture. I've been misquoted in the media, upon occasion, but one of my favorite quotes was in the New York Times. They asked me, hey, this is going to be way more difficult, Are you sure you want this nonlinear thinking? And the quote in the Times was, the world doesn't go in a line. The world is not organized into chapters, and we're trying to learn for the world, not for our convenience in schooling. But we have been teaching and learning for convenience. What's going to be on the test? How do I make this presentable? How do I grade this test? Well, now we can learn for the world. ChatGPT and other developing kinds of AI will make it possible for us to actually be able to apply our knowledge better in the real world, something we've never been able to teach for now, and we need it more than ever. World Economic Forum says within 5 years, you're not going to be able to get a good job if all you do is do well on traditional tests in school. You need to be able to adapt your knowledge to changing circumstances. We're not educating people. Our A+ students will still not be ready for good jobs. In education, everybody's talking about 21st century skills. How do we teach for it? Well, it's pretty hard. But now we have a technology that holds promise for us actually being able to get ready for the demands of the world, the demands of work, of life, demands of change. And with all the threats we're facing, climate change, freshwater crisis, achievement gaps in education, and on and on and on, we need more than ever to be able to deal with real world complexity and novelty. I've been trying to do it for a long time, but it takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of time, and now that time is speeding up. It's becoming practical, and that's a huge change in education, and I think within 30, 40, 50 years in who we are as a thinking species. Anyway.
Thank you, and I want to take moderator's prerogative to share some gratitude, not only to Dr. Renspiro for an incredible talk. I learned so much, but also to everyone who joined us. Between in person and online, we had over 50 people join and participate in this event, which I am really excited about. And additionally, this is the first event in an exciting collaboration between Create for STEM, led by Dr. Joe Kraychek, and Academic and Student Affairs here in the College of Education. So we have many more events coming throughout the year and are excited to see you as they happen. Thanks everyone, have a great day and grab a cookie on your way out.
If anybody's interested in talking, definitely get in touch. There's lots of collaborative work going on.